And welcome once again, 411 Mania, WrestleTakesMania. It is Joe Martel with my friend Eric Mutter. Say hello, Eric.
Hello, everybody. Rock on. Great day.
Cult
Woo.
icon. You're such a cult icon. You bring back a team from the past, back to the future on your hat with the Winnipeg Jets. You are the oddest American I know.
That is true. I am, in fact, the oddest American you know. But hey, look, I have to have a hook of some sort, right?
Right.
Gotta have a hook. Yeah.
My hook is my Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, and in this case, Texas Chainsaw Massacre shirt, and Jason behind me once again. So we are going to bring you let's just say the horrors of wrestling, and quite a week to talk about the horrors, because it's always the day after Raw when we get together and have our little podcast here. And
we planned it out that way.
Yeah, it just works out. If we're going to talk about the horrors of wrestling, following Monday is usually the best time to do it. So let's dive right into it. Raw last night, I felt like it was a slight improvement from terrible to slightly below average, might be the way to do it. Have you heard anything from the Twitterverse about people praising Raw in any way whatsoever?
I have not heard a thing about this Raw one way or the other.
It was such a bland, middle-of-the-road show. This doesn't surprise me, and I'm sure no one listening is surprised.
The only thing I heard about it was that our friends at Retribution, big fans of the show, biggest donators to our cause, attacked the great Prince Puma, a.k.a. Ricochet. And at that point, when I heard that, I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't watch that show.
We're both fans of Prince Puma, Ricochet, to some level. You a bigger fan because of his history at Lucha Underground, but there's really nothing of value to him in the WWE. There hasn't been, I should say, other than teaming with Aleister Black at one point, which was kind of interesting. And then
wasn't that like for 3 weeks or something?
Yeah, they get a title match at WrestleMania, I think it was, and that was it.
Yeah. Aleister then needed to go wait for someone to knock on the door after that. It was very important to him.
Very bizarre booking for those two. I don't feel Ricochet is really going to be a top of the card type wrestler in the WWE, but it still feels weird to see him in such a medium level that no one is taking action. He might not be, I'm not into the spots and the flips and all that sort of thing, but there's not too many people who does that type of style better than Ricochet. He's one of the smoothest flyers in WWE, we'll say. Let's stick with just WWE for now. He's one of the smoothest wrestlers that does that style. And he's very passionate about being in WWE, and yet he's still very forgotten. It's very bizarre.
Well, anybody who watched him on Lucha Underground, he's a tremendous performer. In terms of what you just talked about, I would have to say probably it's really just Phoenix, Will Ospreay, and Laredo Kid to me that are on his level when it comes to guys who can do the high flying and do it so smoothly as you put it. But he's not a very charismatic guy on the microphone. He never has been. That's why Conan was with him in Lucha Underground.
Yep.
For the first couple of years, and then Conan left and they gave Puma the mic, and we saw then that was not a great call.
And even then it was a pre-taped type promo, so they had all the ability to set him up, write it if they needed to. I'm not sure if they did written promos in Lucha Underground or not. They could edit it to make it as good as possible, and it still never stood out as anything special.
Yeah, he had all those advantages and it never really helped him. One of my big memories is when he showed up on a New Japan show and he attempted to do a shoot promo about how he couldn't work that show because of Lucha Underground. And it was the worst shoot promo of all time. Wow. Damien Sandow's promo in Impact when he first got there was better than that one. It was bad. He just doesn't have it there. And that's fine. You can work around that. They either have no desire to do it or they just haven't figured it out yet. But that was always going to be the case. Everybody except him knew that this was going to end badly for him. He's the only one, but he's one of those people to the extreme that wanted to go there since he was a kid.
To WWE, you mean?
Yeah, to WWE, and he's fulfilling the dream. And we'll see if he still wants to do that when it comes.
His contract is up. I think there's still a future in the sense that WWE has been I don't want to say good. I really don't want to praise them on this, but they've done a surprisingly good. Even that sounds too positive, but the way they brought Apollo Crews out of nowhere and built him up to the U.S. title, and they made it pretty credible. Now he's disappeared again, so it's kind of worthless, but they did a good job of taking someone that you felt like should have been getting more over the years and giving him some spotlight and some shine. It's just too bad they can't extend it for more than 6 months or however long it was for Apollo.
Right. Yeah, they're very good at doing it in spurts, and then the person disappears again, and then maybe a year later they get another spurt, and then they're gone again. So
are we predicting Chad Gable already? That's exactly what's going to happen once again, basically.
Chad Gable's push is still going?
Apparently, yeah. He had a push on SmackDown, so he might actually be around for another 2 weeks.
I predict that push will be over before the show is over today.
Before our show is over.
Yes, before our show. Vince will be like, why am I pushing this guy?
Yeah. Well, let's get back to Raw. It started off with the what I thought was a little bit of an interesting move. They've really pointed out how crowded the title picture is. And then this is something we've seen quite a bit over the last, I'll say 25 years in WWE specifically, where they would have multi-challenge type titles matches, fatal 4-ways, 5-ways, the 6-way scrambles. But this is one of those times, I think because it's been so long since any WWE main roster show has done this, it kind of feels fresh. I'm not saying it's good, but the idea of Drew, The Fiend, and Orton all in the mix is pretty interesting. Maybe not because of Orton and The Fiend. Right. No one wants. I don't know about seeing that again. We'll get into that in a second. And then we also have the Miz with the briefcase and a contract. He's not as credible as the other three, but he could win the title at any moment because of that contract. So it's kind of an interesting scenario. I don't want to say it's engaging, but that there's potential for it to be somewhat fresh for today's Raw, which is still not saying all that much.
Well, it's different. I mean, as I recall, they haven't done any multi-man matches since the pandemic started. That's probably by design. They want to limit the amount of multi-man matches and such, although I know they're doing tags and whatnot. But
sure.
Yeah, so that does give it a little more oomph than it would have before, because they used to do these matches way too much, I thought. Like, they used to overdo it, and now it's been a little while. So, yeah, I think it works to go back to it. I wish the participants were a little bit better. I'm really only interested in Drew, as we've talked about before, and we'll talk about again. I mean, Orton and Bray, I don't need to see the two of them together ever again. I don't really need to see The Miz challenging at this point. We've talked about how we think it should be Johnny Mundo, John Morrison in that spot. I mean,
who's been very good. We're going to go through Raw, but the main event was a handicap match where it was a tag rule of Miz and Morrison against Drew. Drew ended up winning, which isn't too awful, honestly, because...
Well, they like to do that. They love to have their tag teams lose to singles guys.
Which I don't necessarily mind in this case, because they're not concentrating on them being a tag team, but it still was kind of bland and nothing too special. But what I was going to get out of that is that while The Miz is firing on all cylinders, because he's great on the mic, we know that.
Yes.
Morrison's been very good. And to anyone who wasn't following what he was doing in Impact or Lucha Underground, the difference between Morrison 2010 in WWE and what we're seeing in 2020 is night and day. That said, you and I, who've seen him progress in the pre-tapes of Lucha Underground and Impact, sees that he's improved with his acting ability, all the courses he's probably taken for his skills, to get him to the point where he is very dependable for a backstage segment or a promo at any time, which I don't think anyone from 2010 would have predicted.
No, he was known as a great, I wouldn't even say he was a great worker in 2010, quite honestly. He was a great athlete.
Yes.
He was a great athlete, but he wasn't quite a great worker, and he definitely wasn't a great promo. And we talked last week about R-Truth and how, he turned heel because he was smoking the cigarette. That was with Morrison, if you recall. And Morrison was terrible in those segments. Awful. But he got released later that year, and he took time off. He took the acting lessons. He went to Lucha Underground. I think you can credit Lucha Underground for completely revitalizing him. He learned to be a complete performer there. He learned Lucha Libre properly, so he became very skilled there. So he was able to translate the athleticism into being a good worker. He learned how to be a great character. he was an amazing promo in Lucha Underground.
Agreed.
Super entertaining.
Very, and in a face or a baby as a heel role, which was very surprising. His arrogance was very much what you would expect from RVD back in early ECW, where it was that ego who can still do a lot of athletic things that stand out, but you hated him for it.
Yes. I can't say enough good things about this guy. He was one of the bright spots in AAA during their dark period.
True.
He was great in Impact. Usually when guys sign with WWE, I'm a little disappointed. I have so much respect for this guy that even though I figured it would not go the way it should for him, I was like, good for him. He got his money.
He got his money.
He deserved his money.
And he's maybe it's just my sensing, and we'll bring up a reference in a second where I'm completely wrong, but I just sense he's going to end up getting the title or some sort of title shot out of this instead of The Miz. But the reference I was going to make is 3 or 4 years ago, I predicted that with Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, and we all saw how that went.
And it worked out so well that Luke Harper is now Mr. Brody Lee, and he's gotten John Silver over, of all people. So it did work out in the end, I guess.
For somebody, I don't know. It wasn't for me.
John Silver. John Silver, worked out good for him.
So that was the main event of the Raw. It's a little bizarre because they're crowding the title picture while the next pay-per-view isn't a title match. It's
so weird.
Orton against Roman. So it's very weird. The positive spin, I'm going to look at it, or maybe the silver lining, however you want to see it. The fact that they're getting the title picture interesting while it's not building up to a title match means that they might switch up who the champion is by the time they get to Survivor Series. I'm not expecting that, but it's possible.
Oh, God.
And it's at least making Raw more entertaining than it was a week, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
If they give it back to Drew, I'll be fine with it. If they give the title to Bray and we're getting Roman versus The Fiend, then I might have to go underground for a few weeks.
Yeah, I am the WWE fan of the two of us, and I don't know if I want to see that either. I like The Fiend. I like The Fiend character. I think I'm a lot more interested in the Alexa portion these days. She's been outstanding in this role. I've always found her a very engaging character, and let's be honest, she's a good-looking woman. It's been a nice show to watch, and I love horror, so seeing this aspect has been very entertaining. The Fiend, though...
Let me ask you. Was that her tongue, or was that a fruit roll-up in that GIF I saw?
Yeah, I thought it was like a fruit by the foot or something. I don't know what that was.
Congrats to Fruit by the Foot for being relevant in 2020. The comeback is on, man.
It was very bizarre. I don't like that over-the-top silliness. Yeah, but her stuff in the Funhouse has been pretty good, and her stuff in the ring has been pretty good.
She's a good character worker. She always has been.
Yeah. So I'm liking her role in this. The Fiend, I still like the overall aura of the Fiend character, but as we've seen, he's not a terrible worker, but he's shit the bed anytime he's worked as the Fiend. It hasn't worked out in a match as the Fiend character whatsoever. So it's kind of hard to get engaged by anything involving him and Orton after that was a complete disaster a few years back. And I don't expect Drew to be able to carry him to anything special either.
We got to bubble wrap Drew and get him away from that man. I don't want to see that.
No.
We saw what happened to Seth. Seth has still not recovered from that. Seth is still the crazy man on Twitter who got killed by the Fiend. We can't let that happen to Drew. He's too pure.
The the outside of the title picture, before you get me too discombobulated, they had a very forgettable TV match with a guitar on the pole, so we can all smell the Vince Russo. Yeah, there you go.
He's back again.
He apparently booked this mid-card match between Elias and Jeff Hardy, which was forgettable.
We gotta hang the guitar up on the pole, bro. It's my best Russo.
Yeah, very not strong enough apparently.
No.
But Russo, man, I get so conflicted. He added some positive aspects to wrestling back when we were younger, and I'm still waiting for anything else he's done to matter.
No, he did the worst thing possible. He's continued to make Disco Inferno relevant.
Oh, okay. Well, as for Raw, there was the guitar and the pole match, very forgettable. I don't know if that feud is over. I don't think anyone really cares. We'll see, though.
So.
One thing I wanted to bring up was the women's division on Raw. Asuka is the star. She's the champion. She wasn't on Raw whatsoever. I don't actually have a problem with that, but they didn't mention her in any way. They didn't bring up the match with Sasha at Survivor Series. They didn't
Which
bring
they are
up,
doing. I saw that.
yeah, which I'm sure is going to be a good match, though that's another one that might change last minute, the way Survivor Series has been over the last couple of years.
Right.
I don't know what's going on with that division. They're concentrating a lot of their time on super awesome Nia Jax. No sarcasm whatsoever when I say that. With her and Shayna as the tag champions for the women's division, trying to carry the team aspect of Raw versus SmackDown, with Lana as the captain. I don't know. It's been a kind of a mess, and it made me miss Shayna from 6 months ago, before WrestleMania, when she was a beast going after Becky, and you thought she might actually win the title from the biggest star in the women's division in WWE. And then ever since then, she's been a tag along to Nia, and Nia is just, her best attribute isn't good. Like, she's weak in pretty much all the levels. She could be good. She could be imposing, but she doesn't ever act imposing, so it just falls flat all the time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That whole thing is weird. You know how it is with them. They love to break up these tag teams, and now their most dominant women's tag team is the one that constantly hates each other and wants to break up. I know where you're going. I saw you make that face there. You're thinking about Peyton and Lacey, aren't you?
I don't get anything. Like, Peyton and Lacey were feuding, and now they're teaming up, apparently. The Riot Squad, which I know is on SmackDown, they've sort of disappeared, but they were at least a unit that were, detailed. We had some background. We know, but no, they're gone. It's too bad, because the women's division has been a pretty good division overall in main roster WWE for, I find, more psychological matches. It's not a lot of spot-based stuff. It's closer to the style I prefer.
Yeah.
But Nia leading the team, no, you're not going to get a good match out of that. And Shayna, who isn't known as a great worker, but she's at least unique, and I like her style, she hasn't got to show anything because she's just a tag-along to Nia, almost like a bodyguard role. It's not engaging. I don't care about anything involving this. I don't care about Lana going through the table 7 times. I don't know what's going on with the women on Raw, basically.
Yeah, that Peyton Lacey Evans, although some people have been known to call her Lacey Ryan on this show, accidentally, I may add, and I apologize for that already.
That guy over there.
That guy over there, off camera.
Yeah.
Like, why did you break her and Billy up for this? It makes no sense. Shayna, I'm not the biggest Shayna fan, but I mean, even Shayna in the right situation is very good, but this is not it. Shayna being the partner of Nia Jax, or the sidekick, or the bodyguard, when they're bickering all the time and they're going to break up when they finally lose these titles. It's just, unfortunately, in hindsight, you could say, well, they should have kept the belts on Sasha and Bayley, except they couldn't, because they had to break them up to do their feud. And once that happened, the titles were dead in the water again. So
pretty much.
Yeah.
They have to build up some challengers, and I guess I'm glad in a way that they are doing that with potentially Peyton and Lacey, but you're absolutely right. Why would they break up the Iconics? I understand that not everyone liked the Iconics, and they graded a lot of people, but in the end, they were
like them.
There were quite a bit of complaints. They
weren't. Well, Billy particularly is not a great in-ring worker. Peyton, I think, is decent, but people didn't like them because they were good workers. They liked them because they were highly entertaining. I don't know many people who were irritated by them, I guess, other than Vince.
Potentially. Yeah, you might be onto something there. And I do see a lot of potential with Lacey, especially in WWE, with Vince booking her. I don't know how well she'd do elsewhere, but that is a good place for her.
They've been so start and stop with her and such too, though. So
I don't know.
That's her.
Women's division, not sure what's going on there. The only woman that really seems to matter on Raw is Asuka. She wasn't there. SmackDown has the more depleted overall roster. There's not that many names, but it has the much more engaging story right now with Sasha and Bayley. Plus, I think the emergence of Bianca Belair is going to be massive on SmackDown. I'm still predicting she's going to be the sole survivor of that brand match. Though, where I was trying to go is with the mess of the Raw women's roster and Lana apparently being pushed out of the role as team captain, it does open the door for something we mentioned last week, the return of Charlotte Flair.
Yes, I definitely think she's going to be in that match. The wind seems to be pointing in that direction. I completely agree with you. If I was booking this, Bianca Belair would win. And long term, I would be setting up her and Sasha for WrestleMania. I think that would be the right way to go. They may end up doing that anyway. Having said that, when Charlotte is involved, we know how much Vince loves Charlotte. We know how much the company loves her. And I mean, she's very good.
Yeah.
So she does deserve her push. But
I don't know if she deserves it over Bianca's spotlight right now.
Not in this case. No,
I don't.
No. I think the problem with Charlotte, and the reason some people don't like her, is that she has gotten wins and gotten put into positions at the wrong time where maybe she should have been doing something else. She shouldn't have been in that Rousey Becky Lynch thing.
Agreed. That should have been one-on-one.
Yeah, that feud was hot. They put her in there, and then it just kind of fizzled out. And, God, the Rhea Ripley thing, I still don't get that.
Oh, that one I'm okay with.
Ripley lose the belt to her?
I'm okay with that, but I think it's because long-term there's going to be a rematch. I don't know when it's going to happen. I expected it to be for WrestleMania this year, but we'll see what happens. Either way.
They got to get to that sooner or later because that was
it won't matter
right
if it's
now
3
it
years.
Looks bad.
Absolutely. Yeah. They got to capitalize on it. And Rhea's still being well pushed in NXT. We'll see where it goes for the NXT women's division. I'm never going to have too many complaints.
Oh, yeah,
that division is
that's
amazing.
Very good.
For her to be in the middle of the pack with Io Shirai, that's not I don't think she's been de-pushed. It might not be the point of defending against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, but she's still in a very good position. She's still pretty safe in her future in WWE.
I think she's going to be the one to take the belt off Io. I would imagine. I can't see who else would be. But and even if she doesn't, I mean, that's a good NXT's women's division is a good place to be. Except if you're Chelsea Green, then it's not a good place.
I don't know what's happening there. Yeah. Anything else of note from Raw? Not really. One thing
we're not going to talk about Retribution at all. We talked Ricochet, but not Retribution.
They thankfully didn't do much. They came out, they attacked Ricochet in the middle of a match versus Tucker, which I guess they had a scheduling issue. I'm sure that was meant for main event, but it took out on place on Raw apparently. And
you're killing me here with that one.
There's no way that would be a Raw match unless it was going to be interrupted. I'm surprised I didn't see it happen. The one thing I'll give as a positive for that segment, and again, I'm not saying Retribution's going to recover in any way, but the way they did it that was smart was they had Ali come out alone, and they had him sitting around the ring. He was standing on the announce table. He was the one staring down Ricochet, trying to get his attention, and it made Ali the star. And that part, I think, could work. You want to make Ali a future in the company, then putting some focus on him instead of the mess that is the masked Avengers that he's surrounded by, great. But then eventually, obviously, all of them showed up and they attacked, and they were fixing their mask every 10 seconds because no one can wrestle in those things whatsoever.
Oh, man. You know it's bad when you're feuding with Ricochet. You know it is. You have taken a wrong turn if you're feuding with Ricochet. I mean, it would be better to feud with Mojo in his mirror. Like, God, get the mirror and Mojo out there, man. We got to do that. Feuding with Ricochet, you're on a one-way track to main event and saying hello to Grand Metalik and Lindsay Dorado and catering. Those poor blokes.
Yeah. 100% agreed. Honestly, I think a big reason why Raw and SmackDown is disappointing is they're building up to Survivor Series, and I know we're not taking an original take on this one, but there's no point to this brand rivalry. It's so stupid for this draft to happen. Then suddenly, I'm super allegiant to Raw, says AJ Styles, who was on Raw until, I think, April, and then went to SmackDown for 4 or 5 months and is back on Raw. And, I'm really Team Red. Woohoo, I'm going to be Team Captain.
He's Team whatever brand Paul Heyman isn't on, that guy.
Basically.
Yeah.
So the other big thing, you had mentioned Retribution. The Hurt Business, they seem to be separating from Retribution. The Hurt Business are now focusing on the tag titles. I am happy about that, but it, of course, took the standard WWE trope of them challenging the champions, getting a non-title win, and that'll lead up to a match that I'm sure will be good because the TV match was fine.
Yeah.
But, man, I wish there was a division for them to work with. I might be critical of AEW, but there's no way you can ever complain about their tag division being 100% well built. They can insert so many teams into a title match. It's very well done. Whether you care or not might be a different story, but it's easy. It's always relevant. It's always credible. You can't say that with any tag division in WWE today.
I'm just more disappointed. They accidentally got the Hurt Business over as baby faces, cool baby faces, because of how terrible Retribution is. And how do we take advantage of that? We're going to make them heels again and put them with the New Day.
It was fine, but it's weird because once again, we go back to the Survivor Series pay-per-view. They're creating some interesting feuds on TV that aren't going to build up to the next big show in 2 weeks' time. It might be in TLC, which is the December show, but it just feels like it's a very odd focus for the whole brand. And in the end, I think that's a big reason why it's hard to get engaged. They're not building up Survivor Series in a way that I care about because there's no stakes for this brand versus brand match. Last year, they kind of had the stakes in the fact that it was NXT trying to prove themselves, and then, obviously the AEW competition was part of it, though that was a less kayfabe thing. There was still a purpose of it, but now, unless they give the winning brand number 30 in the Royal Rumble or something along those lines, I don't care. I don't care. I don't know why any fan would care or any wrestler would care about their brand winning. So it's kind of a moot point in terms of Survivor Series and Raw still being average at best.
We're a long ways away from the days where you had Team Bischoff versus Team Austin, where that match mattered, especially when Michaels was at the end of that trying to fight for the win. We're a long ways away from the Authority versus Team Cena a few years ago, where Sting, we'll have to talk about Sting a little bit, rumors about him.
Maybe.
He made his debut at that show. That match mattered. Now, they bungled everything after that, but those matches mattered. These matches, there's no stakes to them at all.
None.
And, look, we're talking about this brand warfare that doesn't even matter. I mean, they're not even doing a good job of that. We talked about Tucker.
Ugh.
Didn't he just betray Otis a few weeks ago? And now he's just wrestling random matches with Ricochet on Raw with nothing. Why did they do that whole thing?
I can't answer that. Now, I'm not a big Tucker fan. I don't think there's a lot of people thinking he's the next Zack Ryder, the guy that WWE should push who doesn't deserve it.
He's the next Riddick Moss.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I actually think there's more. Okay, come on. Don't push your limits here. With Tucker, he's fine, but no one's going to get behind him. But they gave him a story. There's something there.
Yes.
Follow up. Even if his role is just to lose and put over Otis in the end, who does have more personality, might not be main event, but there's at least something there. Do that. But by having them break up and then just say, oh, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to go lose to Ricochet next week. Then why are fans going to care?
Yeah, exactly.
So Raw, disappointing. No one's shocked to hear that. SmackDown, on the other hand, that was pretty good. Always centered around Roman Reigns. This heel turn has really rejuvenated not just Roman Reigns, WWE entirely, but SmackDown in particular. Not that Raw was ever on a hot streak in 2020 that I could remember, but SmackDown really is head and shoulders above Raw on a regular basis, and it's really thanks to this angle.
Yes, this angle across the board. Maybe you could take a few issues with how the matches were in some regards, but at worst, they were good matches. The angle itself has been very strong. Roman and Paul Heyman together has been a great combination. It's almost as if they should have done it 5 years ago.
No comment.
And yeah, they have a lot of potential there to work with. Now, I mean, obviously, we've seen before they've had stuff start off great and then it goes downhill. Hopefully, they're able to continue with it. But for right now, yes, that is the best thing they've got. That and Bayley and Sasha, and fortunately for SmackDown, they only have 2 hours as opposed to Raw's 3. And when you have 2 great storylines on a 2-hour show, even if the other hour 30 is hit or miss or forgettable, you're golden right there.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what SmackDown was on Friday night. They had a very forgettable qualifier match between Kevin Owens and Dolph. Very, very strong Team Blue guys. They can't wait to defend SmackDown.
Wasn't Owens just on Raw?
So was Ziggler.
Oh, that's right.
It's so ridiculous. The only thing that was really important to those qualifier match was the main event was Jey Uso against Daniel Bryan, which I like because it's a match that you don't need to have a setup for other than the Survivor Series qualifier, and it does become a TV main event quality match, and it was pretty good. And that would incorporate Daniel Bryan in the Roman Reigns story. So even though he lost and Jey Uso won, and he won clean, but he then turned heel and attacked Daniel Bryan afterwards, sent him out on a stretcher and attacked him again. It really, now I'm excited because something you and I have talked about quite a bit is one of the best Roman Reigns matches we've seen during the failed pushes was the Daniel Bryan feud.
I would still argue the best match of his career, honestly. Yeah, Daniel Bryan is a natural opponent right there. That makes perfect sense. I think you could probably get away with doing that as the WrestleMania match if you wanted to do Jey as a stopgap in the meantime. I think there's better options, but you could do it.
Sure.
Either way, it's a good route to go. I have no complaints about that. Really, as far as Roman goes right now, yeah, I think they're doing pretty much everything they should be doing there.
I think the big key, and we just mentioned that with the SmackDown women, is not only do they have a good title main event feud, but they're building up future opponents. Yes. And I think everyone's seeing how Daniel Bryan could be, I'm going to predict more of a Royal Rumble opponent for Roman Reigns. Yes. I think that timing will be better there, and it will be a good match. And that'll lead to WrestleMania, which most likely will be, well, we either have Big E, who might get the big push, or we might get the return of The Rock. Either way, there's a lot of options for Roman as the heel with the rest of the card in the main event on SmackDown. Same thing with the women. Bayley and Sasha definitely still have a couple of months, I think, in this feud that won't feel like Mysterio and Seth Rollins and overkill. But they're building up Bianca. I really think Bianca is going to be the title challenger, like you said, for WrestleMania. So that focus on SmackDown is going to carry an average show because they're at least something to get excited for the next week or the next show, the next pay-per-view.
Yeah. AEW and NXT have benefited from that in the past too. Shorter shows, a couple of good storylines. So even if there is filler, the show is still good to great in the end. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And overall, I think SmackDown's doing a lot of things right. But speaking of the filler, they had Lars Sullivan do a sit-down interview with Corey Graves, the two most likable people in WWE today.
Oh my God! They now that you've brought him up, knowing our luck, it's going to be Roman versus Lars at WrestleMania. We've jinxed it. Oh God!
You know what? That could. I don't even want to say it. Never mind. I think that it was basically done in a way to get the focus on Lars, but away from his obvious backstage controversies and more on why it can fit his character, kind of distracting you from the fact that he has this reputation backstage. I don't think it's going to work that well with most fans, but at least it's giving some kayfabe reasoning for why he's such a beast monster on screen.
I would have loved to have been the writer for that segment. I would have been like, Corey, you got to ask him, have you been on any, forums lately?
How's your social media going?
Any forums, big guy?
Have you done yoga lately?
Shoot any videos?
All right. So we've taken up half the show talking about WWE. NXT had the Halloween Havoc, and it was a pretty good show. But the big news for Wednesday night is obviously AEW. They're building up Dynamite, and you can see this little hair going across the screen here. We're going to have Full Gear this Saturday. So let's give a rundown about what this Full Gear card is going to be about. Now, they have some matches announced. Do you expect that any matches might still be added to the card tomorrow night before Saturday?
I think we might get one more. I'm hopeful that it will involve Serena Deeb. We need to find time to talk about that because Serena Deeb won the NWA Women's Championship from Thunder Rosa, which led to a whole lot of speculation about her future. She is sticking with NWA for the next year. That's the end of that story. But Serena has the title. I would hope they do something with that on the show. Her and Rosa again, her and Britt Baker, something like that. That would be my hope. So I could see that. I could see something with the best friends, or the good friends, as Handsome Miro calls them, against Handsome Miro and the Kipper.
Okay.
And beyond that, I'm not sure. They're teasing a surprise for the show, but I think that's just going to be an appearance, and I guess that could be Sting with Darby Allin or some other free agent. I don't know.
So Darby Allin, he's challenging for the TNT title against Cody Rhodes. One thing that I mentioned with you before we got on, I don't follow AEW that well, but I was looking at this card, and I'm surprised by the amount of rematches that we're seeing, which is very odd for AEW. I wouldn't have expected that, but the stories are pretty compelling, correct?
Yes, well, obviously, Darby and Cody have wrestled. This is going to be the fourth matchup, and the story here is Darby he tied him in the first one at Fyter Fest a year ago. Mm-hmm. He's lost via roll-up the other two times.
Okay.
So he's gotten very close and just comes up short. My gut feeling is this is going to be his moment. They're going to put him over. He's going to win the title. Cody doesn't need the title anymore. And they're going to use this match to help elevate him. I think that's the point of this one right here. So that's why they're doing the rematch there. You know, Matt and Sammy Guevara, which is another rematch. I mean, I think they're just doing that to give this thing closure. And I mean, it'll be what it is. People who enjoy the broken match stuff will love it. People who don't won't. So it'll be, but it has its place there. There will be people who like it, unless it's just totally bad, or Matt, falls off another high place and nearly kills himself again.
If they do a pre-taped recorded match and they show Matt getting injured, that'd be pretty terrible.
That would be pretty terrible. And the other one is Nyla and Hikaru Shida, and I mean, that's pretty much all they can do right there. I mean, we've talked about the women's division and
Well, you just mentioned Serena Deeb. Wouldn't she have been a fresh option to take on now that she's won the NWA title, having her challenge the AEW champion, which is what they did at a previous show?
I would say so, and I don't know if it would be a better match, because Nyla and Shida had a very good match at Double or Nothing, but it would have made sense. I think they probably thought they just did NWA champion versus AEW women's champion.
I guess.
Let's not go back to that. Well, Nyla does have a storyline. I wouldn't say it's strong, but they do have a story where she was threatening to boycott if she didn't get a title match, because she is still the number 1, number 2 contender or something. Mm-hmm. And really, after her and Serena, who else are you going to put in there? They're saving Britt, I think, for February.
Okay.
Big Swole just got her shot, and quite frankly, we don't need to see that match again. It was average.
Right.
Statlander's hurt. Rio is in Japan. Emi Sakura is in Japan. Shauna is on some island in the Caribbean trying to get back in. They just did Thunder Rosa and Shida, so this was really the only option, which I think goes to tell you how that division has not been, needs work.
One note that I noticed on headlines this morning is that Allison Kay officially is a free agent. Would you see her being signed by AEW?
I think they would be very wise to do that. I think they would be very wise to bring her in. I believe they're going to bring Layla Hirsch in. Layla Hirsch had a great week for them last week. She's wrestling on Dark again tonight. I definitely think they're high on her.
Good.
So I think they would be wise to bring in both. I mean, they do have other people. Ivelisse and Diamante are there. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded them doing Ivelisse versus Hikaru Shida at all, but I guess they didn't want to do that. Maybe they were afraid of people shooting on each other in that match or something.
Rumors. The other matches on the card, there's one more rematch, but it's the main event. It's Moxley against Kingston with the I Quit stipulation.
Yes.
I'm engaged by this one. I think I'm a little played out with the Moxley main event style, but will you bring in Kingston involved? You get an I Quit stipulation in there. I have a feeling that's going to be my match of the night.
Oh, it's going to be. Eddie has been so great in he lost that first match. He didn't tap. He passed out, which is what gave them the opening. But he's so great as a promo that even with the loss, he could talk his way back into contention. Mm-hmm. for it. I think it's a great stopgap for what's coming next with Moxley, which I believe will be Kenny Omega. We can talk about that in a minute.
Well, that's another match on the card.
And I think this is going to be money. Honestly, this card looks tremendous. Mm-hmm. From someone of my point of view, and I think from most AEW fans' point of view, I think it's going to be a blow-away show, quite honestly.
Yeah. I know, as critical as I have been of AEW, when it comes to the pay-per-views, I'm definitely more of a fan of these big shows. I wasn't a big fan of the last one, but I think we mentioned beforehand that injury to Matt Hardy really sunk that show from maybe it was average or above average to average or below.
Pretty good, I would say. Pretty good, and it sunk it to average.
Because I love that main event. The MJF Moxley match was great. I love that style of wrestling. Very competitive, classic, not a lot of spottiness. It was just a competitive matchup, and that's what I'm hoping for in the future. And I would definitely hope for that with the, you just mentioned it, Hangman against Omega match. Now, I'm not a huge Omega fan, but I love Hangman. I think that guy is a great performer and more to my style. But you're saying you don't think he's going to win this match?
No, I think it should be Omega. I think they're going to do the same thing they did with Omega last year with the Hangman now, because remember, everybody thought it was going to be Omega's year last year, and instead he lost to Jericho, he lost to Pac. Pac is back now, apparently, by the way. Get excited, people. He lost to Moxley, and I think that was all by design so he could then go through his trials and tribulations with Hangman, and then eventually he could win the title, and then Hangman, after going through his own, could then get the win over Omega a year from now. I believe that's the plan, and they need to run back Moxley and Omega anyway. That was such a, great match that they had, great program. And I mean, Hangman and Kenny has been a great program too.
Definitely.
It built this up tremendously, pivoting from Hangman's initial struggles to get over and then turning him into the anxious millennial cowboy or whatever he is supposed to be. So I think that they had a great match in Japan years ago. I expect this will be even better. We talked about MJF. The MJF Jericho thing I'm very excited about. I think that will be exactly what you're looking for. They're not going to be doing a ton of out of control, crazy stuff. That'll be storyline driven.
The only thing I'm hesitant on that one is I haven't been too impressed with Jericho in AEW for the most part. I think his last great matches were the ones he was doing in New Japan. He's done some good stuff in AEW, but I haven't been blown away the way I would be hoping for in that style. But you're absolutely right. It is more story based. It is going to be more of a competitive matchup, and MJF is the heel of the future. Well, I know he lost at the last pay-per-view, but he's got such a bright future that you can't help but be engaged.
He's like Eddie. He can talk himself out of losses. That's the mark of a great heel. You can lose, but you're fine because you can talk your way out
Absolutely.
of it.
100%.
Really, everything on this, there's only been one thing that has not been built up well on the show, and it's unbelievable because you would have thought, given all the years they've been waiting for it, would have been the best. This friggin' FTR Young Bucks match.
Very bizarre. Now, they added this stipulation where the Bucks are claiming that if they don't win, they're not going to challenge for the titles.
The Cody stipulation from last year. This is going to be an annual full gear thing. Next year, the Hangman's like, if I don't beat Omega, I'm never challenging for the title again. So, they have to do it now.
Do you think that they're going to win it, or do you think that they're going to lose and then renege in a heel character kind of way?
No, they're gonna win this match. It's time. It's like Omega. They spent the first year getting everybody else over. It's time to put the belts on them. FTR doesn't need those belts. I mean, quite frankly, FTR has been a lot better than most people give them credit for since coming in. But there's definitely something off about them in some regards too. They don't need to be champions necessarily.
Okay.
So I do think the Bucks are going to win. And I think they added that stipulation to try and give it a little more heat. I think they outthought themselves. Like, they had a very nice build for it. And then they needed to go for another 2 months. And I think that was 2 months too long. They tried to do this thing where FTR got in the Bucks' head and the Bucks acted a little more aggressively, but instead came off as total heels and such. It's just, if I had done this All you needed to do was have the Bucks win a #1 contenders match and then just do promos about how we've both been waiting to do this match for years.
Yeah.
All they needed to do, and I think they just got too clever for their own good.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And then they have on the, I don't know, do they call it a pre-show? Oh, no,
The
they have
buy-in.
the buy-in. That's it. They have Orange Cassidy taking on John Silver, who you mentioned Brody Lee has been putting over.
Can't wait for that match. I love John Silver. He's awesome. He's highly entertaining. He has a Daniel Bryan-esque quality in the ring.
Okay.
He's a very tiny guy, as you've seen, but he's not a high flyer by trade. He's a bruiser, and it makes him very unique, and he's so great at it. And I like Orange Cassidy a lot, too. I know you're not as high on him as I am, but
I put him in the category of... Sorry, I was going to say I put them on the same category as R-Truth. Now, I'm not saying they're the same talent level, but they serve a purpose. They're entertaining in that purpose, but I don't want to see them outside of that realm, and that's what Orange Cassidy is. Honestly,
that's a great comparison because I would argue R-Truth in his younger years was a great worker too. And
he was.
Yeah, Orange Cassidy is as well. You know, they have the gimmicks and such, but him and Silver have wrestled a million times on the indies. No reason to believe this won't be good. I expect there will be another match added there too. They're not just going to do one on the buy-in. I don't know what it'll be though.
Well, the kind of interesting thing is we are going to try to do another podcast this Saturday. We are going to try to record after Full Gear to give you a recap as soon as possible. We know that Dissecting Dynamite is going to be in the mix. We don't know if there's going to be 2 podcasts covering AEW. I can't say for sure, but we're definitely going to be having some 411 Mania coverage of Full Gear after that show. So look out for that.
Lots of it.
And it's going to be pretty much an AEW show, and I am actually going to watch. I know I don't follow, but I'm going to watch this show and give you my full opinion, whether it's good or not. We'll see, I guess.
And then you need to watch our show, and you need to watch all the shows, period.
That's right.
Watch all the shows all the time. I will start. It's going to be like Jay and Silent Bob. I'm going to be coming to people's houses in my mask and my hats.
Let's not go that far. Getting some Antifa qualities going to it there. So outside of mainstream TV wrestling, well, we're still in TV, but the big news in ROH was on Monday night, they did crown a new Pure Champion. So we got Jonathan Gresham as a new Pure Champion in ROH. And they're going to incorporate more matches from the rest of the roster. They've been concentrating on the Pure Title tournament, but they also had a 6-man tag on that show on Monday, and it looks like they're going to get everyone else involved going into the future. So ROH is picking things up again.
Yes, I know Rush and Dragon Lee are going to be coming in soon, I believe, which is good. Rush is their world champion. You do need him. Gresham was the right call there. I like Hot Sauce Tracy Williams a lot. We talked last week how I thought they had kind of misused him up until this tournament.
Right.
Getting to the finals is a big help for him. And you couldn't go with anyone else other than Gresham. This was pretty much created for him.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It had to go to him, I think. So that's a step in the right direction there.
I am very much involved in a ROH right now. I'm looking forward to whatever they have. I don't know if they'll have a pay-per-view anytime soon. I know Final Battle's usually their year-end show. Times are a little different right now, so we'll see how that goes. Impact. With Impact, we did the Bound for Glory recap, and then they had the follow-up to Bound for Glory, and it was a pretty generic show. Nothing bad, nothing great, until the ending. The ending really stood out, where we had a who shot Mr. Burns type thing going on with who shot Johnny Bravo. What are your thoughts on that, Eric?
Hey, Mr. Burns, now all I can think of, we did 20 takes, and that was the best one. Man, Impact does the best weddings ever. They had the Alley Braxton Sutter,
right?
You know, Chelsea Green won all those years ago. I thought was great. Now we got this one. Johnny Bravo is getting shot. Tommy Dreamer is standing there like the Get Mendoza guy and everything. Everybody else is standing there. I think I saw Rosemary being like, "Yeah, forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown," or whatever. That was like her reaction to it. I mean, who do you think shot Bravo?
I have no idea.
Who's the list of people who were at this thing? Do we have
half the roster? I'm expecting it to be someone involved at the top of everything, whether it was, I don't know. I really
Don.
don't.
It's totally Don. Don,
Don Callis saving his promotion.
I shot him, kid. Don's gonna be the guy. I could feel it.
Maybe it's one of the Deaners. I don't know.
I was gonna say that, but I was like, oh, come on, leave the poor Deaners alone. They're not like Mojo or anything. I don't want to be too hard on them.
I was kind of a fan of what they did because they dressed up as Canadian icons, Bob and Doug McKenzie, so I was happy to see that. So what else is going on in Impact? They have the Johnny Bravo story. They have Rich Swann as champion, which is going pretty good. I know it's still involving Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan, which I don't care about, but at least it's still Eric Young in the mix.
Speaking of Eddie, I heard Davey Richards is apparently teasing a comeback.
I wouldn't mind that, but I know I'm in the minority on that one.
Yeah,
so I won't get too heated.
I was so excited I turned my computer off and went to sleep.
We were just talking about Rosemary. Now she's in the Knockouts division. They have the Knockouts title rematch. Su Young's going to defend against Deonna Purrazzo. Yeah. Heath is injured, but he's going to get his contract signing. It looks like Triple XL is going to get in the tag title picture. Moose might be getting in the world title picture. I'm kind of glossing all those things because the big Impact news or Impact related news is the reason why Su Young and Deonna are having a rematch was because of Kylie Rae not showing up at Bound for Glory. And as of the last 24 hours, I think it was, she has officially retired from wrestling to get herself well. Kind of a scary thought to think about someone who's performed on an indie level and succeeded very well. I was reading some interviews from Booker T, who helped train her, I believe, and had her in the realities of wrestling promotion. And then she no-showed an AEW show, apparently, and now she's no-showed the Bound for Glory. It seems like the pressure might be getting to her. Does that sound about right to you?
Look, I have no idea. I can't speak for her. Obviously, I don't know her at all. Obviously, no. Neither of us do. It's obviously she has some sort of illness of some kind that has definitely hurt her and her well-being there. And I just, if this is what she feels is the best thing for her to get well, then I'm all for it. It's
100%.
Obviously it's sad. She's an ultra talented performer. She was going to be the face of the AEW women's division, and I think you can trace back her departure to the reason why the division is struggling to some degree right now.
It's possible.
And obviously Impact was going to do big things with her, and I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. I just hope that she's going to be okay. And I just hope that she could get it in the right mind. And if that means that she doesn't wrestle again, that's fine, as long as she's okay. That's all I can say about that.
I hope anyone who listens wishes nothing but her to get well, whatever the solution is. I'm hoping, I guess, as a selfish wrestling fan, that by saying she's retiring, it gives her enough of a block from that world to get well, but that the door could still be opened if she does recover. Now,
right. Well, she's still in her 20s and such, so the door is always going to be open. But I mean, who know? Again, without knowing the situation, and I mean, it's not our right. She has to deal with it, with her friends and her family and such. And
well, we wish her nothing but the best.
Yeah, we just wish her nothing but the best. Yeah, it's awful, man.
It's a tough industry, no matter what. I know we're all fans and we all think that we could book better and we can wrestle better, everything we think of, but you get really hit with reality when you could see a star who has the talent and hasn't shown on screen any reservations whatsoever, but now has no-showed two big important career moments for herself. And I hope no one blames her. I hope they understand and respect her.
Anybody who does that is an asshole.
Agreed.
Right there. I'm on be perfectly
very insensitive if
about
that's
that.
The case.
I mean, look, how many wrestlers have we potentially there used to be a time, this as well as I do, where there would be weeks where we would expect one wrestler to die a week due to some sort the effects of drugs, the effects of alcohol and stuff. Who knows how much of that was caused by mental stress? This is a stressful job. Definitely. Pro wrestling. It's a whole different world out there than the regular one.
And add in what we're dealing with across the world right now. It's a stressful time for everyone. I can't imagine what it's like for a performer to travel the way she likely has to, even if it's just one location for Impact. Unless she's living in, I think it's in Nashville where they're recording, she has to travel to and from that studio every time. I can't imagine.
The most important thing is that she gets herself in the best place possible. And if that has nothing to do with wrestling, so be it. I would rather she be, safe and fine than doing this and slowly gnawing away at herself mentally. Yes.
Well, whatever happens, I hope we've said it already. We wish the best. And thankfully, Impact seems to be moving in a healthy direction for the promotion, because they were really building up to be, a big title match for her. I don't know if she was going to win against Diana, but she was going to be top of the card. But they kind of fixed it well for booking. So as a selfish wrestling fan, I'm glad Impact is recovering as well. And personally, if Kylie even is listening to this sort of podcast, we wish you the best.
Exactly, yes.
So the one last thing we want to cover is AAA. They had their weekend drive-in show, and you were saying this was the last one that they were doing for a while?
It is the last one. First off, full disclosure, people. I write for a wonderful place called Lucha Central, luchacentral.com. Today I did a mailbag where I totally did not make up the questions. They were all from actual readers, and I made up nothing about it because I'm on the level like that.
Okay.
So yes, but Sunday night I covered this show for that site. This is their last one. It was a Dia de Muertos theme, Day of the Dead theme, because that was Sunday. This was this past weekend. And yeah, I believe they're done now. They want to do Triple Mania in December with Omega and Laredo Kid and a few other matches. I don't know if they'll be able to do that, but presuming they can, this was the last one beforehand. We've talked about it before. The atmosphere at these drive-in shows have been great. I have no idea why no one else has tried this concept yet. This had all the Halloween decorations and everything, so it looked even better. There were more cars there, more people there, so that was even better. And the matches were the usual strong AAA quality.
Awesome.
A great show all around, quite frankly.
Is there
way better than CMLL?
Well, you've said that a couple of times.
And I'll keep saying it.
Was there one match in particular you would recommend to Lucha fans to look out for?
There was 3, actually. There was the opener, which was a tag match between this mixed tag, Lady Maravilla and La Parquita Negra versus La Parquita and Hades. The La Parquitas are the minis. So
understood.
Hades is... I mean, Hades might be the most athletic female wrestler out there besides Bianca Belair.
Okay.
And can Bianca Belair do a twist dive?
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, this woman can.
Nice.
She's great. So, she's going to be a star. Laredo Kid, Octagon Jr., and Mystices Jr., who, if you're keeping score at home, is now, I believe, the 4th or 5th iteration of Caristico. Who has put his mask? Yeah, who has put his mask back on for all his Twitch videos? By the way, they had a tremendous.
Oh, they're still allowed to do Twitch out in Mexico.
They do Twitch in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they do. They do. No third-party problems there, my man. And finally, the main event had Psycho Clown versus Chessman and future Lucha Underground Hall of Famer Tejano. I can't even finish that. And those two did nothing, and it was fine because Psycho Clown did everything, and it was great. So
very good. Well, I love the idea of these drive-in shows. I think a big reason why you're not seeing other promotions pull it off is, look, I'm in Canada. We got snow over the weekend, so it's going to be hard for certain states in the States to be able to pull that off.
Mexico's got a good climate for that, too.
Exactly. But, I don't know enough about American geography and climate, but I don't know if there's that many that can pull off a drive-in show that would be comfortable for that sort of atmosphere at any time of year, because we're getting into November. Well, it is November, so yeah. That could be.
Yeah.
Well, other than Full Gear, anything you're excited for this week?
Well, I'm always excited for Dark because I'm the only person I know who watches it. Obviously, AEW tomorrow night I'm going to watch. They're being conservative with it. I think that's probably the right call. You don't want injuries on the show. NXT has Velveteen Dream back, so I'm dying to watch that and tweet about how he should be fired.
turning that channel. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, it's just the pay-per-view. And I mean, that's the big thing right now. The rest of the week is pretty much going to be leading into this pay-per-view and what might be in store for it. Who's this surprise person, if there is going to be a surprise person and such. That's really going to be the big talking point, and rightfully so, unless, Roman does something absolutely nuts on SmackDown, I guess.
I don't think they're going to pull anything off, at least for another week, until they build up to Survivor Series in 2 weeks' time.
Guessing it's going to be a little more low-key there, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a decent show.
I guess we could talk about, we both occasionally enjoy MLW, and they are coming back for the restart.
Yeah.
And such. Are you excited for that?
Of course. I've really enjoyed MLW as one of the alternative promotions, though there's so much good wrestling. When I say I don't tune into AEW, it's not because I don't want to watch it. It's more that there's so much that I prefer ROH, and even ROH I'm backed up. I have followed, but I don't think I've watched any of the matches past the first round. So I want to catch up on that. Impact, I realized as I was getting ready for the show, I never finished last week's episode. I did catch the wedding to make sure I could talk about that, but I realized I had to fast forward through about 30 or 40 minutes because it's so easy to lose track of all the wrestling that goes on in a week. So absolutely, I would love to see more MLW if I could fit it into my schedule.
Yeah, well, you got to watch the rest of that Impact, because we got to get to the bottom of who shot Bravo here. We got to be there when we find out that Mojo has gone there and was behind it all along.
As long as it's not like The Simpsons and Mr. Burns and you have to wait 4 months until the season premiere to find out.
I don't care what they say. I'm going to win this festival.
Burns' suit. Burns' suit.
Are they booing me, Smithers? No, they're saying Mojo.
Mojo. Okay, that's it. I'm out of here. Thank you very much for joining us again this week for WrestleTakesMania on 411mania.com.
Watch all the shows, people. 411mania on YouTube. We've got great shows.
Definitely. Dissecting Dynamite tomorrow night after Dynamite, which sounds like it's going to be a pretty eventful show. And then we'll be back hopefully Saturday and next Tuesday as well for WrestleTakesMania. Thank you very much, Eric.
Peace, everyone.
Have yourselves a good rest of your day.